Residential site plan considerations. The auto mechanic's attempt at landscaping. It looks like the car's car. Ka-chow! So first thing I want to talk to you about is solar orientation, and please take note of the little pencil icon that'll help you out. Solar orientation helps for winter versus summer as far as bringing in welcome solar heat gain. So in the summer, you may have deciduous trees that are planted in the south area if that blocks the sun if you're in the northern hemisphere because deciduous trees in the summer can protect from solar heat gain. We had a story from someone who was working in New Zealand, and they said that they had some North Americans building their buildings and they planted all of these trees in the south side, but the sun is from the north in New Zealand. So you got to know where you're actually building. So make sure you note down that deciduous trees in summer can help protect from solar heat gain that you don't want. You can see all the shade on the building here in the south side. And so this is a little rendering. You can see these trees that are protecting this. You can also see this overhang here protecting because you also have a high sun. So this high sun won't go into these windows because we have this little overhang right here. And in the winter time, the deciduous trees lose their leaves, and so then you get additional solar heat gain, which is what you want in the winter because it's cold, 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 cold. So this is a really welcome addition, especially in Colorado, having deciduous trees in the south. And you notice here that we have a really low sun in the wintertime, and now that light can actually get into these upper windows because it's at a low angle, and these trees then would not have leaves in the wintertime. So that would allow the solar gain. So these are definitely things to consider for your design. So again, the comparison summer, you have the shade over here because it's a high sun, and we have shade from the trees. And in the winter, it's allowing that light to pass through. So you can also see these transom windows. These are called transom windows that are allowing the light to come in the window. Another thing to take into consideration is wind orientation. So make a note of that wind orientation. So you have solar orientation and you have wind orientation. Wind orientation, you can actually figure out the wind orientation. You're going to do this in your assignment by doing something like, in this case, I Googled prevailing winds, Alamosa, Colorado. So this is in Alamosa. That is not where your house is building. You're doing yours as if it's in where you live, Erie, Lafayette, Boulder, Broomfield, wherever you happen to live, Louisville. And so in Alamosa, though, you can see that the wind direction is predominantly from the west. In January, it's a lot more from the west. And then over here in July, August, it's about 50% from the west. And then it's the rest of the 50% is from northeast and south. So this large block here shows that most of the wind is from the west, from the mountains. In this case, this website shows you a lot of different things. It also shows you wind speed. It shows you sunlight. It shows you a lot of really different things. So when you Google your area, you'll be able to check out all that information. Conifers are a really good option to block the wind in the winter because they do not lose their leaves. So if you have really strong winds from a certain area, then you can make a little tree block. You can also use a garage placement to help protect against wind. There's the wind. And sometimes you want to have cross breezes. They are preferential, so you can have windows that you might open on two sides of the house to allow a cross breeze to cool things down in the summertime. Sound orientation, that's another one that we want to note down. This is unwanted noise, like from roads generally. And so oftentimes you will put things like, designers will put things like these berms, these mounds of dirt, and then plant some trees on these things. So it protects from like visual things, unwanted noise. You may also put in fences and walls to protect this. You've seen this along really busy roads. View orientation is another thing to consider. I believe that is our fourth one. So make a note of that. View orientation. Sometimes you're going to orient your building because of a particular view. And when we built our house in Alaska, we oriented it directly facing the mountain that we were north of because we wanted to look out in the south right at that beautiful mountain peak. And we had the ability to do that because we were on a lot without neighbors. It was 2 acres of an open lot. So that is another thing you might consider. Terrain orientation. Sometimes you may have a large sloping land. Generally, it is more expensive to build on a steep slope. Please take note of that. It can affect wind, runoff, view. It's generally, though, more costly to build on a steep slope because you have to build up these foundation walls and footings and things like that to be able to protect against that slope. Very flat ground also provides extra grading because you have to provide drainage. You may use existing features, trees, There might be a stream nearby. There might be rock walls, things that you want to incorporate. So this is an example of a site opportunities map. And in the site opportunities map, what you are going to do second semester is you're going to be creating a site opportunities map for commercial design. And in this one, it just shows like, where is the sun coming in? Where do the winds generally go? Where are the steep slopes? Where are there existing trees? So you're just identifying what are the things on the site, so that you can start thinking how you want to do your layout when given the opportunity to do so. It also shows which direction is north here, so that you have your southern exposure of your sun. Landscaping is something that you also need to take into consideration. We'll do more of the second semester. Using native plants is also generally a really good idea because they're more resistant to local diseases, less water to maintain, those kind of things. You also need to take into consideration location of utilities, where they're going to come into the property. One thing I want you to note here is the building lines. So I want you to make a note of that each property has a property line boundary and setback lines. The setback lines things that we're going to pay attention to second semester, but I want you to make a note of setback lines are markings that say you cannot build a certain distance set back from your property because that is defined as area that's protected. The city may use this for utilities and different things like that. So you can see there's a main road right here on the right side of this image on the east side, and there's a 35-foot setback. The city has defined setback lines so that they can operate utilities and things to bring into your property. So that's something I want you to notice, setback lines. All right, ingress and egress. This is how inhabitants enter and exit the site. So ingress and egress means enter and exit. Ingress, enter, egress, exit. Please make note of that. The site should be a convenient and safe to enter and exit. So when you're talking about a residential, it's pretty easy. When you're talking commercial, you got to consider things like parking. So here, this is the main road. This is most likely where your ingress and egress will be. You will get a chance to play around with this a lot more second semester when we work on our large commercial site, which is going to be a very large area, and you get to decide how you want people to enter and exit that site. So please make a note of ingress and egress, what that means, and we'll use that second semester on our commercial project. So your assignment today is going to be into residential site plan, and you will make some updates on your Revit. Go get them. Go get them. Go get them.